This week on My Global Adventure.
This really was smack in the middle of no man's land.
So what do you think about this climbing business?
Oh man, it was incredible. There's all of this color and grace.
Once the parents stop feeding them, they just die.
This road takes us to Brazil. This road takes us to Bolivia. That takes us where we want to go.
Yeah, to the lodge.
What's the name of the river?
Tambopatta.
Tambopatta.
River.
The Tambopatta River is going to take us deep into the heart of the jungle in the Amazon basin. We're in Puerto Maldonado at the mouth of the river.
We flew from Cusco to Puerto Maldonado, where we met our two guides. Mucho gusto. Biasha, who were very, very cool. Now, you don't look particularly Peruvian, so we better explain where you came. Biasha was an American who had so much passion about this place that there was no way we were not going to fall in love with it if she had anything to do with it. And he's just going to stand here and look good. And Ruben, who had a real sort of stature about him and eyes like an eagle. That guy spotted anything and everything that there was to see there. Okay. Good.
Puerto Maldonado is the gateway to the Peruvian rainforest, and it's here that our adventure begins. Boats that normally transport fruit and produce are going to transport us today as we make our way upriver deep into the jungle.
And I want to pass you the lunch.
The really nice thing about the fact that we were going to this part of the Peruvian jungle was that it was so remote. Sometimes we'll go to places and they'll just be overrun with tourists. It takes the magic out of actually showing up there. You know, it takes that sort of adventure element out of it because it just turns into a bit of a tour. You are 23. Why are you here doing this instead of any of the other millions of things you could have done with your life?
Why am I here? I studied international relations and Latin American studies. And from there, I took one class about the Amazon. And in that class, I learned about conservation of the Amazon, threats to wildlife and peoples in the Amazon. And what's really neat about it is that I'm actually, I guess, doing something that's related to what I studied in university, which I never thought I would do, which is conservation.
I admire Biasha for doing something with her life that she really believes in.
Are really coming together here.
I enjoy hanging out with her as I head into entirely new territory.
The jungle that we went into was really remote. It's not a big tourist center, so that was exciting. The downside is that I have a pretty serious clinical phobia of insects. And being smack in the middle of an undeveloped jungle was not exactly my idea of a good time to hang out with that many bugs, so I was worried about it.
Biasha, on the other hand, isn't bothered by bugs. She even gets our sound man Roger to try one. Termites.
You gotta bite its head right away, right?
Just kind of keep it in the tip of your tongue so your taste buds kind of get to it. It's like wood, no?
There are several Indian families that still live in this part of the jungle. We're on our way to meet one of them. Eleanor is a mother of 8. She lives on reserved land near the lodge.
So just to set time and place a bit here, this is the, I don't want to mispronounce it, Eseje?
The Eseja are, well, they originally lived in this river, on the Tambopatta River, and then also in Bolivia. They were hunters and gatherers, and then they were grouped into 3 communities in Peru.
Ishe is a local Indian community that owns part of the lodge where we stayed last night. Because they can no longer hunt or fish for a profit, they're trying to improve their incomes by getting involved with ecotourism.
And so to her family are going some of the profits of the lodge. And 40% are going to rainforest expeditions. And then in 20 years, the entire lodge goes to the community. Vamos en la cocina. We could go inside the kitchen.
Hey, that's great.
Hi, Paqui.
Inside, Eleanor shows me the family's meat supply hanging in her kitchen.
Then where does she sell them, here, or she takes them in?
She also proudly shows me her wooden carvings.
Actually, she sells everything that she makes in the lodge.
It's another way she tries to make money for her family.
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking about buying this one.
Is they're making these sort of... This is cedro. So what do you think about this climbing business?
Oh, man.
Well, I survived my first night's sleep in the jungle, and I'm ready for the rest of the voyage. It's 5 more hours upriver to the Tambopatta Research Center. That's where I'll find out what my next adventure is going to be.
Saw the jungle and the jungle and the jungle, not the jungle and the Best Western, or, you know, there was no development here. And the longer that we went, the more it became clear that this really was smack in the middle of no man's land.
The Peruvian rainforest holds several world records. The most concentrated numbers of species of ants, birds, and butterflies in the world are found right here. And then there's these guys, the world's largest rodents. They're called capybaras, and they can weigh up to 65 kilos. A little further up, on the other side of the river, Biasha and Ruben see something that concerns them. Gold washers, who may very well be breaking the law, just to make a few hard-earned dollars.
Esa tela.
Excuse me. Most of them have permits, but some don't. So,
gold mining has been big business here, I discover. Since the 1970s, people have been flooding in from the highlands to try and strike it rich.
Is it a problem, or?
Yeah, mainly the problem is that they use mercury in the process. And some drops goes to the river, and that pollute the river and the herons and fish, people that eat the fish.
Loads of gold-filled sand from the riverbed are washed over this burlap cloth. The gold gets trapped in the cloth, and at the end of the day, the men soak the cloth in a bucket with mercury. The mercury causes the gold to powder, making it easier to collect. These miners might expect to find about 6 grams of gold a day, and they can get about 30 Peruvian soles per gram. Divided between the 5 men here, that's about $10.50 American each. TRC, or the Tambopatta Research Center, was established here in 1990. Various research projects are going on here, but the main one is the study of the wild macaw. The center has 13 rooms for guests and attracts scientists and volunteers from all over the world. Donald Brightsmith has been here for 3 years. He's the director in charge of the project.
The other side is we're looking for techniques to increase the reproductive success of macaws. And for that, we have to climb up to the nests and check the chicks, pull them down, measure the chicks, and see if they're doing okay. Because we're looking for ways to help increase the number of chicks that survive out of each nest.
How does this interfere with whether the birds stay wild or not?
Okay, what they did in the early years of the project was if they found a chick that was dying, they would take it out of the nest and then raise it here in the lodge. And from that, we have these chicos, we call them, which are macaws that will fly in and land in the lodge and steal pancakes, and rolls of film have disappeared. But with the new system that we're using, where we just feed them and put them back in the nest, they stay with their parents, and when they fly away, they go, and they never come back and never bother people. So.
And they maintain that instinct of fear that they need to stay safe.
Yep, which is somewhat important here, but very important if we're going to move these techniques to other places. Because my goal is to use the information we've gathered here to help endangered macaws in other places, Bolivia, Costa Rica, Ecuador as well.
After meeting with the man in charge, I discover what my new jungle adventure is going to be. The web audience wants me to attempt a pretty physically challenging feat in this hot, humid jungle. To climb like the researchers do, to the top of the tree canopy, 30 meters up, to the macaw baby nests.
How many times have you been out there trying to get to that nest?
This is my third time.
This is Tracy. She's a biologist at the research center and a tree climber. She's my new partner in adventure.
Where's the last?
Tracy usually makes this climb in about 2 minutes, and to as many as 12 nests a day. I have a feeling it's going to take me a little longer on my first run. We're climbing to the macaw nests so Tracy can get the babies that were fed since birth by the researchers. She'll send them down and Donald will check their progress now that they are in their parents' care.
So what do you think about this climbing business?
Oh man, I knew you guys were in good shape before. I didn't need to prove it to myself. It became naturally evident that this was a physically demanding, very challenging experience that, you know, not everybody can do this particular type of climbing.
Isn't that terrible? You do this like how many times a day?
On average, about 4 or 5.
Impressive. Let's do this thing.
And there's another.
You're there.
14 minutes later, and I made it. Not bad for a first-timer.
So what exactly are you doing? So I'm gonna take the chicks out, put them in a bucket here,
Okay.
which is, the bucket has a hot water bottle in it to keep them warm. And then I'm gonna lower the bucket down to Donald, who's gonna measure them and weigh them. So in this particular macaw was hand raised here at TRC. And so she's a little aggressive, as you can see. And they're both in here. And this is pretty unusual.
And you feed them with the glove because they have pretty strong beaks.
Right, really strong. So I just try to coax her up in the nest. And that allows me to take the chicks out, hopefully, ouch, without getting bitten, ideally.
Okay. How long before they open their eyes?
Probably another 5 or 6 days before they start opening their eyes. And down they go in the chick elevator.
And once they start to get lethargic, the parents stop feeding them. Once the parents stop feeding them, they just die. Okay, so what we've got here are 2 macaw chicks. The little one here is about 10 days old, and the large one's about 12. Well, they've both been eating pretty well, and what we're trying to do is we're going to take measurements of these birds to see if they're both growing well. Because what usually happens is the little guys die, and only one of them survives. So they'll stop gaining weight or even lose weight. 130. Then they'll get lethargic, and once they start to get lethargic, the parents stop feeding them. Once the parents stop feeding them, they just die. So what we do by feeding them is break that cycle so that they get more energy back up, and the parents will continue to feed them. Look at all that food in there. It's pretty healthy.
It takes somebody with an awful lot of commitment to spend as much time at TRC as Donald Brightsmith had. And I was really interested in talking to him, not only because he was an academic, but because he was so dedicated to being there, and he really was. Getting a chance to talk to him and hear his point of view about things, I really liked that.
In my opinion, Tracy's got herself a great gig, doing something she loves and making a difference in the Amazon rainforest. That's really living.
Tracy, thanks so much.
Spending your last day with us. My pleasure. How sweet is that? The next day, and we are up early. We're heading to a secure spot in the dark, so that when the sun rises, we'll be able to see something pretty amazing. The early morning frenzy of parrots and macaws at the world's largest clay lick. The birds are very nervous when they come to the clay lick because they are out of the trees and exposed to predators like hawks and eagles. As the sun rises, the swirling circles of cautious birds begin to land. The clay lick near the Tambopatta Research Center is a wall of natural minerals. So why do the birds come here? One theory states that it's like a giant antacid for them. Birds eat seeds, but not the fruit, and seeds are protected by toxic chemicals. So when the birds eat the clay, it coats their stomachs, preventing ulcers and the absorption of toxins into their systems.
This clay lick was covered with all different kinds of macaws and parrots and parakeets. We even got to see a tapir. Oh, it was incredible. It was all of this color and all of this movement and grace. Definitely worth getting up and experiencing. It's a plant that the people of the jungle take in order to see visions or connect with the spirit world.
How you feeling?
Fine.
Okay.
The rainforest is known for having mysteries and cures for all kinds of different things via the plants. And later on tonight, Ruben and I are going to give ayahuasca a try. I've just learned about this plant, and I've actually tried to learn very little about it because I don't want to get a lot of preconceived ideas about what's going to happen.
Ayahuasca is a plant that the people of the jungle take in order to see visions or connect with the spirit world.
And I have just recently learned that you can also frequently, and often most people do, vomit repeatedly on this drug, which really isn't enticing me, but hopefully it'll be worth it and I'll get the answers that I'm looking for. So we'll go and meet Don Jose.
We arrived at the S.A.F.A. Nyapi Center, where the shaman that we were going to take ayahuasca with was, and met up with him, Don Jose. Not exactly what I expected the shaman to look like.
He's going to show us.
Got a little bit of a tour of the area and all of the different plants that are grown there, and actually got to go step by step and see each of the ingredients that go into the ayahuasca.
So this is the plant that you use. It's like ambisal of the jungle.
Chew it.
Just this little bit.
Try with the tongue.
Chew it and then put it on my tongue. Ah. Oh. So. I can't ask any questions now. Wow. That's just to numb pain, like toothaches or...
Yeah, like anesthetic.
Now I'm going to be drooling uncontrollably on myself for the rest of this interview. This is the secret ingredient tree.
Yeah.
That makes me see vision.
It's called chacruna, always together with ayahuasca, and this one helps to give you the visions. And this is a storage tree, and he used the bark. It's a very hard wood.
Okay.
Y al momento de tomar la
Also,
ayahuasca,
this protects you against bad things, bad spirits.
Can I get a double dose of this?
Quiere tener uno doble de esto.
We came into the shaman's shack, which is just a small wooden shack that had a whole bunch of candles lit in it for the first part of the ceremony. He prayed over the ayahuasca mixture and then distributed it to us. I watched Ruben take it, and he seemed to be okay. And then I watched Roger take it. He didn't flinch. And I took it in my hand and drank it, and it was like, it was bitter and nasty tasting. And then the candles got blown out, and we sat in complete darkness. I started to see like whiteness, sort of a white, almost cloud. I lost track of time completely. In fact, I ended up sort of going to a place where there really wasn't time. It was just space. Everything was just light. And I kind of started to do the big soul searching, you know, what's the point of life? Why are we here? Why do I struggle with the things that I struggle? Starting to sort of see if I could interact with this reality and get an answer. And it seemed like the more that I threw out why questions, it was like trying to hold on to water. I would try to get something logical out of the experience, try to get some kind of answer, and everything would just kind of melt. And I guess that was an answer in and of itself. Everything was just light.
I feel inspired today, and that is saying something after the rough night I just had. I'm impressed to have met so many dedicated people, and all in one jungle. Their unique lifestyle has left me feeling motivated to think about my own contributions to the planet.
What you're doing is
My journey around the world has introduced me to many people, and I've reconsidered many things about myself. Maybe the answers I'm looking for aren't as set in stone to find as I once thought. Maybe I make those answers myself.
Coming up on My Global Adventure.
Oh my God, it's got Tom! It's got Tom! It's got Tom!